Right, and go live. Okay, welcome to All Things Xbox Podcast. I'm Jamie Moran, and I've been talking about this podcast for a long time now. And yeah, let me know if there's any issues in the chat with audio or anything. This is the first show. If there's issues, they will be resolved next time. And today, before we get into all the topics, I have Logan with me. Care to introduce yourself?
Hey, thanks for having me, Jamie. Most of y'all know me on Twitter. Logan Meyer. I'm big into gaming across the spectrum. Primarily focus on Xbox, but I play on everything. Big into sports, pop culture, whatever. And I'm thrilled to get going and talk all things gaming, all things Xbox with my good friend Jeremy, man.
Okay, so we have a variety of topics, and I want to make it clear this is an Xbox show. We will focus on Xbox. If there's anything important in the future that needs to be talked about, be it, PlayStation, Nintendo, Steam, all that stuff, we'll mention it. But it's Xbox, no toxicity or anything. So anyway, I want to start off the show with something we just found out a few hours ago, and that is Ghost Recon. Now, I have a rant about this because I like Ghost Recon, right? I've been playing Ghost Recon since the early days on Xbox 360, and they were fun games. And they changed over time. We got better gadgets in games, the online stuff became even better, and then we got Ghost Recon Wildlands, which became a massive success. Ubisoft didn't even expect it to be that big. And the thing is, I loved it, right? It was very simple. Everyone understood it. The stealth was very simple. Everyone liked it. So you'd think with Ghost Recon Wildlands selling 25 plus million copies that we'd get a sequel to it and it would be everything that Wildlands did, but we'd get basically a better version of that. Well, when they announced Ghost Recon Breakpoint, they said it's going to be more tactical, more stealth, and basically more intense with combat, which is really cool, right? The problem is it came out broken. It was missing all the features people liked about Wildlands. And, it took them 6 months to get AI squad mates working, and even then, they weren't as good as Wildlands. It took them a year to implement a system where you could throw a bullet shell to distract an enemy. Like think about that. It took them a year to put in a bullet you throw. So today, they announced that it's their 20th anniversary, and during the entire show, they kept on saying, look, we've been about open world games for the past two games. And they kind of made it seem like they were going to go back to a linear style game, which a lot of people in the fan base have been wanting. Now, this is what triggered me. They announced Ghost Recon Frontlines. It's basically a Warzone clone. And if you've been following me on Twitter for longer than 5 minutes, you'll know that I'm not a fan of the whole Battle Royale thing anymore. Like, it was fun with PUBG, but now I'm just past it. I really am. It's just the problem is with Battle Royale is that people just focus on that being like the main thing and the main only thing. Like, whenever you hear people talk about Call of Duty, they don't talk about the multiplayer or zombies. They just talk about this one particular mode. And I feel like this mode being implemented into certain things, that's all people are going to talk about. So with this announcement, people other than me are clearly mad because Ghost Recon and Tom Clancy, these games aren't what they used to be anymore. And if you agree with me, put a one in chat. But like, I don't know. I feel like Ghost Recon and Tom Clancy games have strayed way too far from what they used to be. And look, we're at the start of a new generation still. People want new experiences, and we still haven't had an experience like Splinter Cell in 2013. So what do you think?
Like you, I'm a big Tom Clancy guy. I've always loved the films, the books, the games, everything. And I just, I'm not thrilled with the announcement, to put it lightly. It's more of same. It's kind of been Ubi's thing lately where they're trying to kind of shoehorn some franchises into some styles that allow long-term monetization and gameplay, and it for some it works and some it doesn't. And for This one in particular, just another battle royale clone. I mean, battle royale is fun. I enjoy it, but I don't want every multiplayer, shooter tactical game to be a battle royale. It just it kind of just wears out the feel of it if everything becomes just the same thing. And that's kind of just Ubi's thing lately. Like all their adventure games have, they changed the Assassin's Creed formula a few years ago. Then ever since then, they've been like followed that to a T. And it feels like the same thing for this. And then the fact that they won't just make a Splinter Cell, they just refuse to for some reason. Whether it's too big of a expectation at this point, a la Half-Life 3, to where it's just like, yeah, we should just not touch it, or is it a just they don't think that type of game would sell, which seems crazy to me because of the fan outcry for that game in particular, and they were received so well. So to me, it just feels like more of same. I'm disappointed. I'm not mad, but I it's it's typical at this point.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. When it comes to Breakpoint, I think it's a really good game now, right? The way it has settings all done, so you can make that game however you want to play it. Do you want to play squad stealth? You can do that. Do you want to play all alone and be like, solo survivor? You can do that. And you can even set it up so it plays more like a looter shooter. And, I think Tom Clancy games, like, they used to be all like based on reality more and more like interesting when it came to like plot lines and stuff. But now it's more about, the gameplay, which is cool. But it's like it's just too over the top. Like, think about it, like you're fighting drones in Breakpoint, right? Which is cool, and some of the fights in there are cool. But when they throw like Sam Fisher in there and then Terminators, like it's all over the place. And don't get me wrong, I like Terminators and I like Sam Fisher, but this it's just too much. Like, and when I saw that gameplay today of Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon, let's face it, Warzone, that's all I saw. It's competing for this pie, which people seem to just want a constant chunk of. Because think about it, look at the top battle royale games. It's Warzone and Fortnite. Like, they are clearly gunning for that, title. And the thing is, people are getting sick of Warzone. It's the same with tight old map. And yes, it's getting a new map soon, which is cool. But it's like, I feel like there's just too much focus on the whole battle royale thing. And look, maybe the beginning of this show, I didn't intend it to be me triggered about Warzone and battle royale games, but I just feel like, and this goes into Halo as well. People feel like it needs to have battle royale or it's not going to succeed. It's like we've had Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon games and Splinter Cell games massively succeed without battle royale. Wildlands sold over 25 million copies, and that got multiplayer like a year and a half in or something. And it's like, we don't need to have all this extra stuff, I feel like, there's plenty of Splinter Cell fans out there that would pay for a traditional Splinter Cell game. There's plenty of fans out there that would buy for a traditional, Ghost Recon game. And it's just a shame it's gotten to this point, man.
Yeah, it's a massive bummer that it's gotten to this point. I mean, I'll still hold out hope that they'll make a Splinter Cell someday. Maybe it would take an Xbox or Sony or a big platform to, offer them to help with the cost for publishing a title like that or something to help with the risk. But maybe it would take something like that, but I still believe that there's an appetite for it out there and that if they really want to, they can get it done.
Yeah, I'm hoping, and plus we do have another Ubisoft Connect apparently coming by the end of the year, which is cool, and we still have a lot of Ubisoft games to find out about. So, Skull. I was going to say Sea of Thieves, Skull and Bones, and Beyond Good and Evil. Two. Those are two big titles we still need to hear more. We will see more of Avatar probably at the beginning of next year because that's going to be one of the biggest titles for Ubisoft. So yeah, anyway, let's get into the main topics. And we're going to start with TGS. Tokyo Game Show just happened, and Microsoft did have some presence there. And yeah, I liked what they showed. Some of the announcements was pretty decent. I think the big announcement was Scarlet Nexus for Game Pass. The reaction online was big. The thing about Scarlet Nexus is that's pretty ironic is that when it was announced with its release date, people were like, is it coming to Game Pass? And the publisher were like, we are not launching in Game Pass, but you will 3 months later, pretty much. And yeah, pretty much Sarah Bond came out on stage and talked about how they're going to localize more games for Japanese region. And, it makes sense, right? Gears of War should be in Japanese. Halo Infinite should be in Japanese. It makes sense. They want to grow the audience there. Game Pass is clearly the big thing that they're going to try and, take off there because their banner for Xbox Game Pass is filled with JRPG characters, which in my opinion is the correct way to go. But outside of localization, people expected more. And I get it. I would like more Japanese RPGs to be on Xbox. And this is where my rant comes in. Square Enix, they cherry pick games left and right and what's going to be on Xbox. It's been happening for years. And it all comes down to Microsoft. People always say Microsoft need to try more. It's like, they don't really. Like, think about this. Square pretty much think, why should they put more games on Xbox when people don't buy them? And that's an understandable thing, but this is where people don't really think. Square Enix put their first mainline Final Fantasy game on Xbox 360, and that being Final Fantasy 13. It was an extremely divisive game. People were fighting online about it all the time, and people couldn't decide whether it was good or not. And people were arguing constantly about that game. Again, it split the fan base. And then people wondered why they didn't buy it. It didn't sell well because, let's face it, it was just divisive. People argued about it. Much like Star Wars and Halo, people just, complain all the time about it. And then when it comes to Kingdom Hearts, a notorious series for having this extremely complex story that's way over the top, we got the third entry as the first title on Xbox. And then they put the remasters on a year and a half later. In what world does that make sense? No wonder the third game didn't sell gangbusters on Xbox, because nobody had any idea what was going on. You start the game and you're talking to people from Tangled and you have no idea what's going on. It made no sense. And then they put things like Dragon Quest XI on Xbox. That was done perfectly fine, except the fact that the day it launched, they didn't activate achievements. So a lot of people on Xbox are used to playing games with achievements popping, right? But if you start a game and there's no achievement list there, people are not going to play it for a while. And that's what happened. People didn't play it because there were no achievements day one. In fact, I think it took a day and a half. And then we have to look at Sega. Now, Sega have done some things right. They started off with putting Yakuza games on Xbox Game Pass, starting with 0 all the way through to 6. And it got people used to the franchise, right? It's 0 barrier to entry. If you subscribe to Game Pass, congratulations, you can play Yakuza. So when Yakuza Like a Dragon came out, people had a reason to go buy it because they were used to the series. It was a new entry. It had English voice acting. It also had English motion capture for lip sync. And I saw a lot of people in the Xbox community buy it and enjoy it, which is cool. And frankly, it's a fantastic game. Yakuza Like a Dragon, mwah, beautiful game. So that was the correct way of doing it. But we have Square cherry-picking games left and right about what's going to be there. It's just weird. And yeah, Dragon Quest XI didn't have achievements for a day and a half on Xbox. It took them that long to flip the switch. Like, it's weird, man.
Yeah, you could have a whole episode on Xbox's JRPG conundrum. That it parts of it are from things that they need to do better, but quite a bit of it is frankly outside their control. They can improve the brand in Japan. It's their fastest growing market. I know there's the easy to make jokes. It's like, well, it's not that hard to improve. They only sold like 100 Xbox Ones, last gen, and now they sold 102 already for Series X or something like that. So, I mean, they're seriously improving over there. They've been doing a great job. Phil has said he works every day to try to get more Japanese games to the platform, and I believe him. They've done so much better this generation from compared to last. And getting Octopath Traveler into Game Pass was a huge accomplishment because that was a mega hit on Switch, and getting that on Xbox and Game Pass was awesome. So that's just another example of Square's kind of weird cherry picking. Like, okay, we get Octopath Traveler and one of the Dragon Quests, but then all these other ones skip it, and especially older titles that get remasters, they skip Xbox for some reason. And then whether it's the lack of first party over there has hurt them a little bit, obviously, because for over in Japan, they're like, okay, so what do I associate with Xbox? It's mainly Western titles. And but now that Tango is part of Xbox, and that was a big segment of the Tokyo Game Show, was Shinji sitting down and talking with Phil about the importance of that market and development and cultivating talent and how that'll play into Xbox's future. But yeah, Square has been notoriously kind of um, odd in how they handle their IPs on Xbox. I mean, Capcom's gotten better. Atlas is still, it's interesting. They're owned by Sega, but they're very still not putting very many of their titles on Xbox. Sega has done a lot better with Yakuza. There's still some major franchises of theirs or some remasters that are skipping the platform for some reason. I mean, there's a lot of work to be done, but they have definitely made noticeable progress, and I applaud that as a fan of those games and genres. So overall, I was happy with Tokyo Game Show. It wasn't some be all end all showcase of dreams, but got a few ports that I wanted, like AI Somnium. I love Spike Chunsoft. They make really trippy, wild games. So I was thrilled we finally got one of those on Xbox. And yeah, Scarlet Nexus Game Pass was a huge deal. So all in all, it was a good show, I think.
Yeah, I mean, as opposed to what we've seen in the past, and plus the Game Pass thing, like all those Japanese games going in that day, that's really cool. And like you were saying, it was AI Somnium files. I don't think anyone ever expected that to be in Game Pass, let alone on Xbox. Um, so that's good to see. I think the big thing, like you said, Atlas. People have been wanting Persona on Xbox for years, and the thing is, we've had all these franchises come over. People want more Final Fantasy games, we got them. People want Yakuza on Xbox, we got them. Dragon Quest, still debatable at this point. We got one, but it's almost as if Atlas doesn't like money, because when Persona 4 Golden went to Steam, that sold over like 100,000 copies in like a week or something. It was like some insane number for a port. So it just goes to show that there's an audience out there, no matter what the platform, for Japanese titles. And it's a shame. I think we will see more. It's just going to take time. My only worry is that, and this is tinfoil hat time, by the way. My only worry is that Square is unwilling to put games on Xbox unless they get the money up front first for Game Pass, because at that point there's literally zero risk for them. The game is already bought and paid for, or the port, and it's like, it kind of reminds me of the 360 generation where Microsoft literally had to pay for the Final Fantasy 13 port. That was a big power move back then. I remember forums like NeoGAF pretty much broke down because of that announcement. It was fantastic. But we'll see. And carrying on with the Game Pass thing, I have to say, Avengers, that has been all over my feed. That's all people are talking about, Avengers and stuff. And I want to put it out there, I did not have an opinion of the game, right? I have this thing against live service games where they just take too much time. I don't have time to do raids or whatever the hell you call them. But, with them putting more games like these in Game Pass, I've been trying them. And I have to say, I've been enjoying it. Like, I know it's just the single player portion I'm playing at the minute, but like my feed is filled with all these like screenshots and clips of Avengers, and it just goes to show that people are willing to play these games, even if they don't like them or think they like them, if they go into Game Pass, because there's no barrier to entry. Look at Outriders. They advertised that game for a year as a game that isn't a live service, even though it has 9/10 of live service, aspects. And people played Outriders because of Game Pass, mainly. And again, there was zero barrier to entry. So, like, I think games like this should just launch in Game Pass. Like, it just makes too much sense. Like, the amount of people that are posting.
There are aspects that were a little wonky, but I'm excited to try it.
Yeah. Uh, just trying to see if we're still connected because something happened there. If anyone can in chat can say that we're still connected, it should work. See, that's the problem with doing these things live and you're learning at the same time, type of thing. Okay,
Yeah,
we're
I
back.
feel it.
Okay, so what were you saying about the whole Avengers thing?
Oh, I was saying that I had held off on it because I had a feeling it might come to Game Pass eventually, and I was glad it did. And I'm looking forward to playing the single player because I like Crystal Dynamics. I respect their work, and from what I've heard, the single player is quite fun. It was the multiplayer that was a little wonky.
Yeah, yeah. The whole multiplayer thing, like I was saying before, I think people don't want to get too roped in with these things because then it becomes like an appointment. Like you have to play these games at a certain time to get things done. It's the main reason I don't play Destiny. Like I think Destiny has fantastic gunplay mechanics. It looks gorgeous, but like I just can't make it like appointments with friends to do like raids or whatever you call them. But the single player thing, people love. And I think this goes to show that there's more and more people out there that are willing to spend time and put the money down for like single player experiences because I like multiplayer stuff, right? But the amount of people that are talking about Avengers as a single player game as opposed to a co-op game, it kind of says it all. And Crystal Dynamics, they make really good single player games in the past. The first Tomb Raider games they made, or the first two of them, were fantastic. Even the third one was good, but that was IDOS. But like, it's just good to see single player games like get talked about. And I feel like everything's shifting to these live service games at the minute. And did Avengers really need that? Because remember, like when Avengers was being marketed, they weren't really talking about it like it was a shared world like type game. It's just now people are beginning to realize that, oh yeah, it does have a single player component.
Yeah, I feel that was more Square's influence probably for how the development was. They kind of pigeonholed the multiplayer aspects and everything into it instead of just letting Crystal do a fully fleshed out, brilliant single player focused narrative. And that they kind of learned their lesson from that. And then you see the Guardians of the Galaxy game that's coming out not too long from now. It looks like they were more hands off and letting it be just a truly single player experience and trusting their team to do a good job with it. So, I mean, it looks like they might have learned their lesson from this, but I'm excited to try it.
Yeah, and while we're talking about the whole Marvel thing, the Avengers game that looks good, right? That is a full-on single-player game, and the reason I keep talking about it online is because people should be excited for these things. I feel like there's too much scrutiny for video games now. Like a video game is announced, and all you say online right away is, "I'm concerned," because every time Avengers is being shown off, I should say Guardians of the Galaxy, people say, "Oh, I'm worried about like the skins or the monetary thing." It's like, no, it's a single player game. People. I think people are being too scared off. The Avengers game, like that got hit for a long time, and people are enjoying it. So it's like if this is a single player game, people should pay more attention to it. And also while we're talking about the whole Game Pass thing, I think we have to talk about studios. The studio topic has been all over the place at the minute, and I think everyone listening saw that clip going around of Colin Moriarty. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Talking about how it would be the worst thing in the world if Microsoft got a new publisher, or should I say another publisher. And it's like, is it really? Is it really the worst thing? Like, we have Tencent buying companies left and right. We don't know what they're going to do. They have a new handheld that's going to come out in I think, in 6 months or something. But it's like Tencent are buying up everyone, And you have Microsoft, they're looking for more studios. And you see with Double Fine were clearly able to finish Psychonauts 2 and make it how they wanted. It had boss battles. It may have not even had boss battles if it weren't for Microsoft. And if you've played the boss battles, they're fantastic. And Microsoft's given their studios leeway. And I think, people like to bash Microsoft all the time. We've seen this for years now. Some reasons I'd say, has been just in the past, but Microsoft's been on a really good long track record for a while now. It's like they letting their studios do what they want. You know, hell, I think even things like Redfall, those games are going to benefit greatly because they can, I think the problem with a lot of the games Arcane make, for example, is they're hard to get into, right? Immersive sims are one of the hardest genres to dive into because you pretty much have to figure everything out for yourself, right? And Microsoft are pretty much gonna have more money to make what they want, and without worrying about the whole marketing thing afterwards. And I think the point is that if Microsoft did buy another publisher, I'm just going to use Take-Two as an example, right? Maybe they wouldn't feel so needy to fill everything up with shark cards and all that stuff. Like, imagine Grand Theft Auto if it had content that wasn't, hidden behind paywalls, right? Because that's a potential thing. And I know, like, people get worried about, like, imagine taking away Grand Theft Auto from X amount of million people, but it's like, we've had talk for over a year now about Take-Two being bought by one of the big companies. And it's just when Microsoft are going to buy them, or rumors, shall I say, rumors of them buying them. It's just the worst thing in the universe all of a sudden. Despite the fact that if Microsoft does buy a publisher, those games are available on PC, console, and xCloud. So it's like, why do all of a sudden people have such a big issue with Microsoft buying them and no one else?
I think it comes down to a lot of entitlement, probably, that PlayStation on for last gen they were hyped as the best in all these different categories. They had the best third party, the best first party, this that. They were getting all the accolades, all the press attention. I mean, people were all in that camp, and then for them to see that momentum has shifted in Xbox's direction after the leadership change with Phil Spencer, backwards compatibility, studio acquisitions, focus on accessibility, all these positive movement swings where they took their beating last gen and they learned from it, and this gen they're all in. Sati and Nadella's behind them 100%. They've he's 100% with Phil, and he told him just go out there and make Xbox the best you can, and they are doing that. It hasn't been perfect, but it's been really, really good, and it's gonna be even better. And then as for the whole publisher thing, it, it's funny because it Bethesda it's a humongous deal because of all the quality studios and the name recognition, but it wasn't like a monopolizing purchase. It was 8 studios. 8. It almost doubled what Xbox had before, so they went from 15 to 23. But it wasn't like they bought 40 studios all of a sudden. It was 8. And then, that the fact that they're looking for more is a good thing so that they can add to their portfolio and continue to diversify. And they've given them so much support. Like you said, Double Fine, for instance, they were able to make Psychonauts 2 far greater than it would have been without Xbox help. Tim even mentioned that they probably were going to have to cut a bunch of stuff before they were acquired. So they were able to make their whole vision. And then you see these studios growing as well. Like, Compulsion had like 20 to 40 ish devs when they were acquired. And now they're approaching 90. Then Ninja Theory just ballooned. They have so many now compared to the original Hellblade team. It's ludicrous how many they have now, and it is not a bad thing at all. Xbox is not buying these and just trying to make other companies look bad or put down other players or saying anything. It's not a negative thing. It's they're buying them and giving them the resources and time and support to make the best things they can, and they're supporting their brand. I mean, think about it this way: if PlayStation was doing this, they would be widely hailed and supported for making their platform even better. At the end of the day, the goal is to make your platform stand out and be better. It's you're not you're not generally trying to be antagonistic and make the other platform look worse. You're trying to make yours look better, and that's what these acquisitions are about. Personally, I for publishers, it doesn't bother me that they buy them at all. But I prefer the method of buying a few individual studios here and there that are kind of tailor picked, fill a need, rather than just buying a publisher that kind of is a grab bag, so to speak, where you might have like mention Warner Brothers for example, because they're always thrown out there. You know, you have your NetherRealm, your Monolith, and your Rocksteady. They are elite. And then the Rex is kind of a mixed bag. Kind of, you've got some solid, and then you've got some, they're kind of there. So, me, I prefer the method of just individual acquisitions, but I definitely don't have a problem with a publisher acquisition if it's like Bethesda, to where you're getting 8 studios that have brand recognition, they know what they're doing, and they have a creative vision that just needs support, and they can do really great things.
Yeah, man, that's a good point. And the thing is, people will talk about Microsoft's track record. If you look at things like Wasteland 3, reviewed well, Psychonauts 2, people love it across the board. Flight Simulator, even though that's with, Azobo Studios. Like, people love Flight Simulator. I love Flight Simulator, and I can't fly a plane. I never want to fly a plane because I'd probably crash the thing, but, like, I can fly one in a game, and that's thanks to Flight Simulator. And it's like, Forza is probably going to perform well. And then Halo 5, like, I should say Halo Infinite, people love that stuff, and we'll get into that in a bit. But, like, I don't think it's a bad thing if they pick anyone up. Like, I get it, the whole Bethesda thing. People looked at that and thought, okay, we're not going to get, Elder Scrolls 6 or Starfield now. And, that's a big shocker. But at the end of the day, like, and this isn't bashing Sony. This is just how things are. You have Sony paying up for timed content all the time. Final Fantasy 16, Final Fantasy 7 Remake, all these games. And it's like, the people that would play those games on PlayStation aren't gaining anything from it. Not really. They're not getting anything extra. They're just getting bragging rights. Whereas Microsoft, and this isn't a Microsoft versus PlayStation thing, it's just Microsoft buying studios because they needed them. Remember at the beginning of the last generation? They had like 6 studios, if that. And they didn't even own the Gears of War IP at that point. They had Fable Legends in development and Forza, and even then they had one team making Forza. So it's like, they go on over time, and, things change. And plus, I'd rather either of those big two companies buy a publisher over Tencent, because who knows whatever happened to them in the future. So that's that. So I want to go into backwards compatibility. This is a topic I talk about all the time because I absolutely love 360 generation games. And the reason I talk about them all the time, and a lot of people are going to, might be able to, get where I'm coming from. When Call of Duty was at its, best, I'd say between Modern Warfare and Black Ops, I was playing a lot of Call of Duty. I played in a few like local tournaments. I was obsessed with playing, multiplayer. Even though I played other games as well, like the Assassin's Creeds, the Batmans and stuff, I was on Call of Duty every night without fail from like 7 p.m. to like 2 in the morning. And then, as soon as the Xbox One generation was approaching, I was beginning to notice I was playing more single-player games again. And then, we didn't have backwards compatibility with the Xbox One, out the gate. So when they announced backwards compatibility, I was able to go back and experience all these games I missed out on. Things like Castlevania Lords of Shadow, Ghost Recon Advanced Warfare, or whatever it was called, the last one that was single-player. Things like that. And I realized like I missed out on so much because I was playing so much multiplayer. So over time, we got things like enhanced games. So some of the games are 4K now. So if you have an Xbox One X or a Series X, you play a Splinter Cell Blacklist, that thing runs at 4K flawlessly. Star Wars The Force Unleashed runs flawlessly at 4K. It looks so good, it rivals a lot of modern games because there was detail there all along that you couldn't see. 360 generation games look good because it's almost as if the developers weren't playing up to graphics, they were playing up to an art style. So the games look better now with the enhanced resolution. And then over time, we've got things like automatic HDR and stuff like that. And the back compat team had to stop making backwards compatible games to get ready for the Xbox Series consoles because they had to get thousands of games ready to go day one, November 2020. And they did that. They did that. Aside from like 10 games, some of them probably being Connect, everything works fine. So now there's rumors again of games, or should I say more games, getting added to the backwards compatibility lineup. And I have to say, even though it's old games, I'm excited because there's a lot of games still from that 360 generation. And I know you, Logan, you like the original Xbox games as well. It's like there's still so much they could add.
Oh my goodness, man! I was dancing, super happy when I saw the tease that they might be doing that for coming soon, adding more titles. And if that really comes to pass, I will be elated. There's like you at the beginning of the Xbox One generation, it was a little light with some titles, and then they added BC, and I was able to revisit some things where either I was too young at the time when they came out, or I just missed them for whatever reason, where they were overshadowed. And like honestly, the vast majority of my library is older stuff. Like I buy new stuff too, obviously, and play all the new stuff, but I have a large collection of older games I play, and the fact that they look and run so much better on the Series X than they did before. It's crazy. Like I could put up, the original Knights of the Old Republic, and it's like 16 times, resolution or whatever as back then in '03, or they were able to add widescreen support to Ninja Gaiden Black, or just and then the 360 games with the enhancements to them, like Gears 2 and 3 looked like remasters. And then my goodness, we talked about Final Fantasy 13 earlier. That trilogy is just otherworldly looking now after the enhancements that Jason and the team did. And in the FPS boost has been a great addition as well, and I'm thrilled with that. It's definitely helped these games. Like Super Lucky's Tale going from, like 30 frames to 120. That was mind-boggling jump, and it was so smooth and buttery. And just the fact that it covers all these different genres, I love BC so much because I've even written about it for Lords of Gaming and stuff in the past, but it allows me to re-experience classics that I love and cherish, and also share them with a new generation when play with my nephews or whoever, and I'll have a Gears of War or a Halo, playthrough and play through the whole series with them, and it's really important to me. So the fact that they're talking about bringing more back makes me really happy, and I can't wait. If it's just one last batch, then I'm thrilled. I'm happy. If they did the dream of bringing them back weekly like they used to, that'd be even better. But I would just be stoked with even a few titles added. I love BC so much.
Yeah, I mean, we are missing out on a lot of games. Like, and I'm not gonna get my hopes up and think of all the licensed titles because there's a lot, and I see people ask for these all the time. Transformers, War for Cybertron, and Fall of Cybertron, and there's all the Spider-Man games, and then you have Captain America, Super Soldier. Although I really want that to be backwards compatible because it's so good. But all the licensed titles. I know there's sports games, especially in the US, that people want, like certain NASCAR ones and American football. And it's like it would be cool to see these because a lot of the games we have backwards compatible. We don't even see anymore, like genre wise. And this is me ranting again, but like during the Xbox One, PlayStation 4 generation, the linear third-person shooter kind of died. Like, unless Microsoft or Sony make it, nobody else makes them at all. And it occurred to me the other day, like, that's probably one of the reasons why I'm enjoying backwards compatibility so much, because these games just didn't happen. The Final Fantasy thing, Final Fantasy 13. If anyone listening has a Series X or a One X and you have Game Pass, download Final Fantasy 13. Like, that game has no right to look so good. These games hid so much detail that we just couldn't see. The game was hidden behind, a screen of Vaseline, and things look blurry on 360. Let's face it. I fire up the 360 every so often, and things are really blurry. But it's good to see that we could possibly see more added. And the thing is, FPS boost. People love FPS boost. Like Deus Ex: Mankind Divided is 60 frames, flawless. Prey, 60 frames, flawless. And it's like they could do so much now, because during the Xbox One, PlayStation 4 generation, let's face it, a lot of games are 30 frames. A lot. Even like a lot of the enhanced stuff that we had for One X. Yeah, granted, we had fantastic graphics, but again, there was still 30 frames per second. It's like, I wonder if we can get to a point where in the future, maybe everything from that generation goes up to 60. Because even things like, the Assassin's Creed Ezio collection plays like a new game at 60 frames. It's like, I see people all the time asking for frames per second boost, because even though these consoles are almost a year old now, we still have a generation filled with games most people haven't played. So they also put a lot of these games in Game Pass as well, because there's a optimized section as well. It's like, it's just going to open up the past library of games up to more people, because let's face it, if I go to the store right now on Xbox and I don't see that XS logo on a game, I'm like, should I really click on it? Does it really need my attention? Because I'm so used to seeing 60 frames and all these enhancements now. And it's like, and it's also another thing they could put. I know Kirby, they can't put FPS boost and everything, but I'm being wishful, right? I'm being wishful. I would like FPS boost on a lot of games. But like, it would be cool to see more FPS boost in the future. And also we have things like Dolby Vision, right? I know it would be hard to implement Dolby Vision on backwards compatible titles, but given the fact that they were able to put HDR on things, like, I don't know. Originally, we didn't think we'd see 4K Xbox 360 games, and now we're at a point where we do have 4K 360 games and, original Xbox games. Like you were saying, Logan, like, Knights of the Old Republic is like 16 times its original resolution. Certain games have widescreen modes. It's like they're clearly capable of surprising us. It's just I'm being optimistic. I think in the Xbox camp we have these features which we can look forward to, and we're probably going to see more soon, because again, we haven't heard any Xbox news for a while. And yeah, and unless you've got anything else to say on the topic, we'll move on to something else.
Yeah, I would just say that with the 20th anniversary coming up next month, it would seem to be a golden opportunity to me to show off another batch, or to make some announcements regarding backwards compatibility. And they made, we talked about acquisitions earlier, but they've made acquisitions since they had stopped the BC program, or put it on pause rather, where it would make sense to go back to some of those Bethesda titles that are missing, like Arx Fatalis, Quake 4, Wet, Hunted Demon's Forge. Uh, there's a bunch of older games from their lineup, and some other first party games like Ninja Theory, back when they were called Just Add Monsters, made Kung Fu Chaos. That's missing. They're missing Fusion Frenzy 2. There's that's just a few, but there's notable omissions even from their own first party lineup that would seem to make sense to add, especially after acquiring these studios.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Now that I think about it, you mentioned West by Bethesda. That would be cool to see backwards compatible. And this is a pie in the sky wish for me, and I think there's maybe 12 other people on the planet that want this. Star Trek Legacy on the Xbox 360. It's basically a third-person shooter, but where you control starships. It's fantastic, it's underrated, and I don't care what anyone else says, it's good. Made by Bethesda. Man, we don't have Star Trek games. That's a rant for another day. But yeah, hopefully we'll see more soon. Again, news is coming. So the big thing of the past week, Halo Infinite multiplayer flight. So personally, I see that 343 was in a sticky situation because let's face it, whenever they start taking over the Halo franchise, people were all over the place. Their games were Marmite. People either liked them or disliked them. And the thing is, in my opinion, 343 did a fantastic job with Halo 4's campaign. They made it more personal with Chief and Cortana, and it just worked. And then for me, the multiplayer in Halo 5 was fantastic. It was super fast, it was fresh, it was new. It did everything I wanted from a new Halo experience. But clearly, not everyone had the same thought as me, because for the past 9 years, I've seen constant arguing online about sprint and what armor looks like and all this stuff, and it's like they had to find a place where all Halo fans would be happy. Because if you really think about it, people say Halo's downfall was because of 343, and it's not. 343 taking over Halo just when Call of Duty was getting more and more popular. It's just a coincidence. Like, think about this. Call of Duty requires less, I don't want to say less skill, but it's less time to kill, and you don't have to wear down shields. It's just pop around the corner, drop shot, and hit them in the head. And it's like, with Halo, you have to strafe and knock down shields first, and it's like, Call of Duty was getting so popular, it was the go-to thing for people to buy the kids for Christmas. Unfortunately, that's just how it is. So, Halo was kind of on the back burner when it came to Halo. I should say on the back burner because, Call of Duty was just absolutely massive. Like, it got to a point where people would buy the kids that for the birthday, Christmas, and it's just how it was. So it's like 343 had to find a place where they could get all these people on board that play Call of Duty, but also the people that have been stuck with Halo since day one, and also the people that have complained about art styles and sprint for a long time. They had to satisfy everyone, and in my opinion, after playing the flight for 2 weeks in a row, I think they've actually been able to hit the right spot. Like, it's fast. There's enough of Halo old feel there and enough new stuff to get both fan bases on board. Because my timeline, from people that have played it, and not by people that are just shooting tires and fruit for the sake of it, and clout, people overwhelmingly seem to support Halo Infinite.
Yeah, I agree. It's been all positive from my end for the Halo Infinite multiplayer. It just I feel like if they do a good job on the campaign, this game will rate incredibly highly. The multiplayer is fresh, but it's also harkens back to old. It's the perfect mix of adding some new, but not taking away what makes Halo Halo. It's brilliant. And as for 343, I've been a defender of them. I think Halo 4, like you mentioned, the campaign was brilliant. It was, and visually, my goodness, that game pumped out the nth degree of what the 360 could handle. It holds up to this day really, really well. And just the story was brilliant with Cortana and the humanizing of Chief more. And the Halo 5 campaign, was divisive, obviously, and that through whatever reasons of their own doing, kind of it didn't hit the mark. But the multiplayer was great. So it feels like now they're in the same boat where everybody sees the multiplayer and they're like, "Wow, this is awesome." Now I just hope the campaign hits, and if it does, this game will be really, really, truly incredible, and people will go back to not doubting Halo again. It I'm very, very excited for it, and I I mean, yeah, I'll admit I was bummed about the no co-op and split screen at launch. I mean, that was kind of a buzzkill to me personally because I know not everybody does couch co-op or split screen with people, but that was a core part of Halo to me personally because I've always had friends or relatives or whatever come over and we'd binge through the Halos together. So, but I always play through it first on solo anyway on Legendary, so I'll just do that and then wait till the co-op comes. But all in all, I have very high expectations for Infinite.
Yeah, aside from like the few features that aren't going to be there, I think they've done a good job. And what's funny is, and maybe I don't want to start something here, but people have complained about sprint and mobility, like clamber and all this stuff in the past, and it's like 343 have been able to come out somehow with a game with a grappling hook that flings you across the map at 55 miles an hour, and they've got away with it. And people are saying it plays like Halo. And in my opinion, they've did the impossible. I love the game and how fast it is. I love the fact that I can run. And yeah, it is a lot slower compared to Halo 5, the sprint. But they kind of had to hit a sort of happy medium, satisfy the people that can't run in games for some reason, and satisfy the people like me that like to sprint. But my biggest takeaway is the grappling hook, and I think a lot of people in the same boat. Like that control's so good. Being able to get up to ledges a lot quicker, and being able to grapple to vehicles is hilarious. And especially when you fall off the map and you can get yourself back up, like the grappling hook is more handy than I ever thought, because when the game was first revealed, with the Craig gameplay, and you see Master Chief use it to get like a power core to throw it, it's like a lot of people thought that they wouldn't put the grappling hook in the multiplayer, and they did the opposite, and people love it. And it's like that is the most enhanced mobility feature that they've ever had in a Halo game, and people love it. And it's like 343 have done the impossible. Like, yeah, last year people were complaining about what it looked like and everything else, and tree popping, but like from what they've gone from last year to what people think of the multiplayer today is kind of incredible if you think about it. Like, people are posting pictures of floor textures and stuff. Like, yeah, granted, posting floor textures, it's a bit silly, but at the same time, it's like, well, we have all these new consoles with 4K resolution and stuff. Don't we want to see good detail on things like the ground and walls and stuff? And it's like, I think 343 deserve a lot of credit, because they were put in the worst situation possible, where they had to delay a game out of a console's launch for a year, and people are still impressed with what they've played.
Yeah, I'm thrilled with what I've seen so far, and I feel like the delay was honestly a blessing in disguise because it allowed them to shore up the graphics and the engine and the gameplay, and it's fine tuned, and it looks night and day compared to not this past E3, but the one before, and it's just I can't wait. I'm super excited for December for it to come out, and yeah, and like as for the grappling hook, I think that was a brilliant addition. It's almost like a kind of a Scorpion's, hook, or the Doom Eternal's meat hook from the shotgun, or the Indiana Jones whip, kind of like a mix of all these things. It's like it feels right, yet it is a new addition that is kind of funny when you talk about like some people were mad that you could suddenly run all of a sudden, like somehow Super Soldier isn't allowed to run. I don't know, but that's a topic for another time. But it's just it's funny, like you mentioned, but I think it was great.
Yeah, they've done a great job, and I will mention the sprint thing quick. So if you've been playing Halo, or if anyone listening's been playing Halo since the first game, Master Chief runs in cutscenes. He runs all the time in cutscenes. He also can climb into a tank. So my question is, if he can run in a cutscene, why can't he run in gameplay? And if he can climb into a Scorpion, why can't he climb a ledge? Just putting it out there. Because imagine if Captain America couldn't run but still be watching Winter Soldier. Just putting it out there. But yeah, fantastic what they've done with Halo. Now, the question is the campaign. We are a few months away from the release. We haven't seen the campaign since last year. And you know what? I think they did show us briefly around D3 time of like some, scenery. But like if the campaigns in general tend to look better than multiplayer. That goes from Call of Duty all the way to Grand Theft Auto 5. The single player always looks better. They can do more with lighting and all that stuff in detail because they're not having to worry about connection issues and all that crap. Like the campaign could end up looking bloody fantastic. You know, um, so I have all faith in them. They'll do well. And yeah, I want to last topic of the show. So Microsoft has had E3 and Gamescom this year, and they tend to end the year out with XO. And I want to say that you know they have the award show coming up, Jeff Keighley's award show. So Microsoft has basically 2 times this year where they can show something off. And the thing is, we haven't seen anything on things like Hellblade, Fable, Avowed for a long time. And I think, people realize that, especially with everything going on in the world right now, people really want to see more of these games. Granted, we are well aware that Perfect Dark is a few years away. That makes sense. I'm a realist. But back in 2018, Phil did say that we will see more of Fable later. Now, generally speaking, when people say later in a conversation, they don't mean 3 years. They don't. And, I love the fact that we have Fable coming. I love the fact that we have Playground making it because let's face it, their games are good. Playground have never made a bad game. But this is an RPG. We have to expect something different and all that stuff. So it's like, I think this year Microsoft will actually show some stuff because E3, the first party situation, we didn't see a lot. But granted, the show, I think Microsoft had the best show this year. Like, their E3 was bloody fantastic. But it's just the first party thing. We need to see more of the games. Because, Microsoft and Sony and Nintendo all show games different ways. Nintendo have showed logos in the past and people have cheered. Sony have showed logos in the past and people have cheered. Microsoft show CG trailers and people complain. And I think maybe it's been long enough for things like Fable, or at least Hellblade, because the thing about Hellblade is that they've been showing off, developer pictures from behind the scenes for the past year now, and they have the brand new studio. So I think we could possibly see stuff at XO this year. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I'm confident we will see Hellblade 2 before the end of the year in some capacity, whether Xbox has an XO event or if it's at the Game Awards, but I'm confident we will be seeing Hellblade 2 at some point this year. It's been long enough. It debuted before the console even launched when they first, showcased the idea of the Series X at the Game Awards. And I mean, obviously, the pandemic impacted them in particular because their game is so heavy mocap focused to where, you had to have in person and close quarters and all this and that. And when everybody was, for the most part, working from home, that obviously greatly impacted a core element of their entire game. So that game, having not much seen so far, really doesn't bother me at all because I totally understand why. But I do think we will see some of that this year, whether it's at XO or Game Awards. I would personally love to see what Compulsion's working on. I tweeted about it yesterday. I'm super fascinated how they go from such a tiny studio to a pretty nice sized one. And they've been super quiet. Not a lot known about what they're working on. There's been, rumblings or whispers here and there, but like nothing too concrete about what exactly this thing is. And if it's anything like the tone or the narrative of We Happy Few, I think we're in for a treat. I love the dystopian vibes of it, and I think this game should be pretty cool too. And then Fable, I think it's time to see something from Fable. Even if it's just a small little snippet of something, like maybe showcase a hero or something like that. Because, we had the really funny yet serious trailer with the frog and the fairy and the sword with the guild logo and everything. But if they could showcase like a hero or, Chicken Chaser, something, just even a little snippet, that would feel pretty good. And like you said, Playground, they straight up quality. They're aces. Whatever they put out there turns the gold. So I'm confident in it. Even though it's a new genre. I mean, I know this is PlayStation, but you look at Gorilla, they did Killzone for their entire careers up to a certain point. Then they tried something completely different in Horizon Zero Dawn, and that turned out quite well for them. And I have complete faith that Playground is an A tier studio and that this game will be really, really good as well.
That's a good point. I never really thought about that because they literally did go from first person shooters and Killzone, the very narrow, corridor shooters to Horizon Zero Dawn. So yeah, I mean that's a good point. And the thing is, I think a lot of people in the Xbox community, and I say this all the time, people have been wanting more third person games. That's understandable. We have a lot of first person games, and there's a lot of third party developers only making first person games all of a sudden. I've just noticed that. But we have Hellblade. That's going to be third person. Compulsion's next game is meant to be sci-fi and third person, which that sounds good in my book already. And Fable, that's obviously going to be first person. I should say third person. If Fable was first person, I think people would lose it. But yeah, I think there's a nice lot of variety coming, and then you have the rumored titles. And I think it was Windows Central that broke the story of IO Interactive and the Dragon game. And before anyone puts in chat, Scalebound, please let it go. like, it looked cool back in the day. I think we have to move on. This is going to be another game with dragons, and who knows, we might see some soon. But I think it's exciting because given the fact that Microsoft are clearly working harder with second party now and third party, that we could basically see anything. Because remember, for the longest time, Microsoft was clearly put off from showing games too early, and clearly that's not the case anymore because we saw Perfect Dark, and that's not coming out anytime soon. But the whole IO Interactive thing, that's been rumored for a while. There have been rumors of I saw a rumor a while ago about Microsoft working with NetherRealm. I think that's just people getting the hopes up about Killer Instinct. Just putting it out there. But yeah, I think people have a nice lot of variety coming. And here's the thing: we could potentially see Starfield gameplay this year. I know that's a pie in the sky thing, and it seems like Bethesda would wait 6 months out, like they did with Fallout. But given what Microsoft's been like with announcing stuff just out of the blue, they could really do it at any point because nobody expected a new Xbox console to be announced at Jeff Keighley's Game Awards. Nobody expected that. And let's face it, the Bethesda thing was announced on a random Friday. So who knows? But yeah, I think Microsoft's in a good position because they already have so many games announced, and going forward, they already have so many. We know that Microsoft have multiple developers making multiple games. It's just they have to show them, And I think it gets to a point where we've seen enough trailers. We just need to see gameplay, and things like Starfield, things like Fable, and Ninja Theory's Hellblade 2. I think we will see gameplay of those sooner than later because let's face it, it's been a while. And yeah, I think that's going to be it for today, unless you can think of anything else.
No, like you mentioned IO, I wouldn't be shocked if they teased their Dragon project potentially at a Game Awards or an XO. It's kind of it hasn't officially been revealed yet, but people know that they're working on this, so that they just go ahead and reveal it at an event, or maybe a little bit more of Contraband from Avalanche. That'd be a nice title to see a little bit of, or some of those others from Jez Corden's Windows Central article, like the Project Indus or Dark Skies, or some of these other secret games in development. And then there's going to be a whole bunch that we don't have any idea about that they just reveal, or the rumored Kojima partnership. It seems like at Jeff Keighley's show would be the perfect place for that. But yeah, it's an exciting time to be an Xbox fan for sure.
Yeah, you mentioning those last things there just remind me. I've got another bunch of topics, small topics, pretty much what we're on right now. So you mentioned the Kojima thing. The Kojima room has been all over the place for months. 1 minute he's making Death Stranding 2, the next minute he's making Metal Gear Solid, the next minute he's making Silent Hills for Konami in PlayStation. It's there's clearly something going on. Konami, and the reason I don't believe the Konami thing is because Kojima and Konami left on such bad terms. I could not believe that those would work together ever again. The fallout was literally public to the point where Konami were humiliated on Jeff Keighley's stage. So I Jeff Keighley had his boys back, man. He had his back, you know. And in all fairness, Jeff Keighley and Kojima were put in a bad situation. Like Konami have notoriously been like bad business practices in the past. It's like they messed up. Um, but you're saying with the contraband thing. So uh, the Xbox Game Studios Twitter posted before saying just randomly out of the blue. By the way, we have nothing to show about contraband, which really made me wonder. It's like, why would they do that? Why would they do that on a random Tuesday without anyone saying anything at all? And yeah, and the thing is, contraband's been in development for a while, and Just Cause was it Just Cause 4 came out in 2018, I think, or maybe 2017. Like it's been a while, so it's like you've got to wonder like their game could be coming out soon. To show up because I think a lot of developers now don't want to have a huge period of time between the game reveal and it coming out because we've seen a lot of games this year being announced with gameplay and CGI trailer and then come out 6 months later. Aliens Fireteam got announced, came out basically 7 months later after it being announced. Things like World War Z Aftermath announced, came out 6 months later. So I think maybe Microsoft may be aiming to do something like that because I think they're well aware of the gameplay question. Like people are always asking when are we going to see more, and maybe that's why. Because there's been rumors that we are going to see a Wolfenstein 3 and that it's been in development. I know Pete Hines has hinted at in the past that it is in development, and I for one, I love Wolfenstein. I think it's going to be bloody amazing. And the thing is, it makes sense because Indiana Jones is early in development, and what else has the team been up to? You know, so you've got to wonder, like Machine Games, they might be ready to show something in the next 6 months or so. Uh, but it's all over the place, man. That's the problem with Microsoft and talking about them. They have so many studios making games that it's kind of hard to keep track of them all. It's like we have Tango Softworks. Like they making Ghostwire Tokyo. That's meant to come out early next year, but they also meant to be making a new horror game. So it's kind of endless, man. Like I think I think we will see something at the Game Awards and EXO, 2021. But I think it's a good time to be an Xbox fan because for the longest time, people were told that Microsoft didn't have enough studios, didn't have enough games or IP, and then they bought the Gears of War IP and they start buying studios. And you have to remember, before 2018, people thought Microsoft gave up. And let's face it, we don't know everything behind the scenes. All we know is that all of a sudden, when Phil basically got Satya Nadella's attention, that they all of a sudden had this funding. All this money was pumped into Game Pass because nobody talked about Game Pass before a year and a half ago. Not really. It was more of and this game is also on Game Pass. Now Game Pass is the front and center thing when it comes to Xbox. So now you have to look at it like Microsoft has all these studios making games at a time where people still talk bad about Microsoft and saying that they're not going to be in the gaming space for a long time. When you think about it now, they've been in the console industry longer than Sega was. And I'm sorry to all the Sega fans out there. The Dreamcast was cool from what I heard, but it's not my fault. But like Microsoft's in a good place, and I think for the first time in a long time, Microsoft fans, Xbox fans, should be happy with where they're at. Yes, it would be cool for them to buy more studios, but at the end of the day, we had new consoles launch where Xbox fans could enjoy their consoles. They didn't have to be told that, the games are super low resolution every 5 minutes. Because guess what? When the Xbox One came out, I couldn't enjoy it. Everyone online was just talking about the resolution and resolution gate. How Microsoft doesn't have enough studios. And, as a content creator and someone that enjoys Xbox, it's crystal clear to see Microsoft has came such a long way in just such a few years.
Yeah, the change in Xbox ever since 2013 has been just astronomical. They go from having a handful maybe of studios to 23 now, and then looking for more. And still has got Nadella's back 100%, and just go out there and make Xbox as great as possible. And Game Pass was such a it was such a hot topic when it first launched because people were like, is this really viable? Is this gonna sustain? Like, how is this gonna work? And then it seemed to baffle people. And then turns out it's been a jackpot gold mine. And companies are seeing, you know what? Not only do my games get a lot of players going when they go into Game Pass, they sell like gangbusters too. I know personally, I've bought numerous titles that I first tried in Game Pass because I liked them so much, and even games that are generally genres that I didn't play before. It's just it's the all you can eat buffet, and it's incredible. And then like a demo fest, like you can try it and go, it's not for me, or wow, this is incredible. Let me see what other games these guys make. And it's just Game Pass has been brilliant. That backwards compatibility, which we both love so much, and excited about, and the accessibility controller and all these other things to help people be able to play games that previously couldn't, and xCloud, and just it's it's all been going in a very good direction. They haven't hit their zenith yet, but it's definitely an awesome time to be in the Xbox camp for sure.
Yeah, and I think everyone listening can agree with this when I say if you subscribe to Game Pass and you're looking forward to something, and then just one random Monday or something, Microsoft come out and say, "Oh yeah, that game that you've been looking forward to for 6 months, 4 months, whatever, it's going to be in Game Pass. You're not going to have to shell out any extra money." Now, when that happens, I'm like, well, in that case, I can spend that money on something else that isn't going to be on Game Pass. Because let's face it, games release every week. A dozen games release every week on the Xbox Store. So not everything launches in Game Pass. But there's always those times where something you've really been looking forward to launches in Game Pass. And it's a good feeling because, let's face it, game prices have been a mess with this new generation. This is another topic I could rant on for a while, and I'm not because I'll get triggered. Screw it, I'm going to mention it anyway. Game prices in the UK went up to £70. That's $100. Now imagine in the US you had to pay $100 for a new video game. That would feel like a kick in.
That would
Yeah,
kill me.
yeah. Like let's face it. If someone said, "Hey, Far Cry 6, that's going to cost $100," you might as well kick me in the nuts because that's what it feels like. Like $100 for a game is just ridiculous. It is. Let's face it. And people complain about digital deluxe editions, having to pay for, digital deluxe editions now just contain a few skins. That's all, Granted, I think there are a few season passes that are worth it, things like Assassin's Creed and stuff. But, like, the price of games have gone up so much to the point where it's like Game Pass is not much of an afterthought anymore. It's more of an incentive because you're literally saving money by paying for it. Like, I'm not advertising for Game Pass. Like, there's a lot of people I know that don't use Game Pass because they don't see the point of being subscribed to a service, and that's cool for them. But it's like, the amount of value you get is ridiculous. And people joke online about the increasing backlog and how we don't have enough time to play these video games, and it's all true. But at the end of the day, you're paying for a service that has cool games in it, and if you're enjoying it, well, aren't you getting everything out of it you want? Like, I don't understand why people are against Game Pass in a world where games cost $100. Let's face it, if games go up to $100 in the UK, they're going to go up to $100 in the US. Like, the games are going to go up again and again. And soon I'll be paying the equivalent of $130 for a game. I hate the fact that I can say that because it's probably true. It's probably true. Call of Duty this year, £70. No, thank you. That's just ridiculous. I am aware that I sound triggered by game prices right now, but it's like, imagine looking at the prices of games online and they just all shut up. By the way, if people listening for the first time has not heard me say this, Call of Duty is a good example. During the 360 generation, cost £37. Now these games are 70. We are paying almost double across one generation later. Isn't that a bit ridiculous?
I understand the development costs have definitely skyrocketed, and I understand price increase for games in general. But yeah, more almost doubling is kind of wild. But yeah, it's we were blessed to have a static price for a long time for games, and then it inevitably went up. I hope it stays put for a while because going up more from this would be whoo. But like you said with the Game Pass, thankfully, it you get games in the service, and then it also acts like a. I promise I'm not shilling for Game Pass. I know this sounds like an advertisement. It's not. I promise. Um, but you get discounts on DLCs and expansions and stuff, and on the games themselves if you want to buy them, if you like them so much. So that has come in very much handy for me personally. It's like, man, I like this game. Oh, the expansion. You know what? I'll get that, and then it's discounted. So awesome.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm probably gonna have to put in the description at some point that we are not chilling for Game Pass. It's just a good deal. It's like when I see alcohol, mainly Strongbow Original, in a supermarket that's marked down, I'm thinking, I should get that. Don't need it, but it's cheaper and I'll enjoy it. You know, uh, I don't know why I have to talk about Strongbow all the time. Anyway, it's been a good show, and I think that's it for today. Next time, I want to make sure that the settings will work all the way through because we did have a cutoff of about 40 seconds in the middle. Hope everyone's enjoyed. And yeah, let me know on here in the comments or on Twitter what you thought of the show. What you'd like to improve, how was the audio quality, all that stuff. Logan, have you got anything to plug before we go?
Uh oh, just go enjoy your games and be nice to each other.
Awesome. Now, I have everyone's socials. I have mine, Logan's, and Ben, who made the art for the channel, in the description down below. So all of our Twitters are down there. And yeah, let me know what you think of the show. Please like, share, and subscribe. Hit that bell for notifications. I have a video coming out either tomorrow or Thursday. That's my biggest video to date. It's about 40 minutes long, I think. And it's a very interesting Xbox related thing. And yeah, again, share. It helps the channel out. We want this podcast to go. I have a lot of things planned coming soon. The podcast, I have some guests lined up for in the future that I think will be interesting. Anyway, again, hope everyone's enjoyed the show. I'm out. Peace. And I think that's it.